So, I mean, we are focused on real-world assets, so I do believe that it is one of the inevitabilities of the space. If you have large institutions and major players like BlackRock and Larry Fink talking about tokenization as a core part of their strategy, you can see that this is inevitable. We're starting to see a bit more adoption and product market fit on the permissionless blockchain side and more at the retail level. That's still got a long way to go, but I think when the smart money's there, there's a reason, and we are firm believers that this could be that killer app, right? So building towards that future is quite important, and it will be something that's not just up and down hype, it's real.
Well, I mean, gaming, definitely the most interesting thing for me, but I think social, consumer-facing products, I think there is something there. Friend Tech, they did good for a period of time, then it crashed. I also believe in art. I know you're also a big art collector. For me, I love art pieces, NFTs. I collect them for the intrinsic value of it, not actually to show it to other people, but I believe that digital art pieces have meaning to me because of the history, everything that I've done in the space so far. I've been in the space for 6, close to 7 years, seen the rise of NFTs, I guess seen the fall of it. I'm still incredibly bullish on NFTs, but we're definitely very early stage there. I think DeFi, our real world assets, like all of these things have a place in it. Like it goes in trends. Meme coins I'm not so interested in. I think it's a joke to get most money out of people, and people want to speculate on something. It's a lot of grifters that can benefit from it. So I'm very careful when it comes to meme coins, but I understand that it comes from a place of goodness, I think also, because people are tired of getting dumped on by VCs, by all of these other people, so they want something that's fair. People want an opportunity to be a part of a system where they are not unfavored, where there is like someone else who's already been there. Crypto is a lot about that. I understand meme coins at, I think, at a pretty deep level, and I think people are very excited about the opportunity to get in early on something. Like that was the promise of ICOs, the promise of these early stage crypto projects. But the problem is really that it's so hard to ship. For other meme coins, I guess there will always be things that people want to speculate on. It's not as interesting to me. I see it as a distraction. I believe in focus of product building. I'm a company builder, not something that's just shipping out some kind of meme coin. It's not attractive to me at all.
I think again, different level of motivations for any number of people. Personally, I'm hyper-focused on what we're building, so I don't spend a lot of time analyzing the latest trends now, just simply because my mind and headspace is fully occupied with Star Atlas. But of the verticals that you mentioned, I think that Depin is probably the most compelling. And also I think it's very empowering because you're effectively enabling people to use physical hardware or assets that they own now to participate in these decentralized networks.
I mean, I like all of them, but let's go from what's going to be more impactful and what is really needed for the space. Obviously, I think AI, I'm biased, but I think is the strongest for many reasons because we're both changing the world. And it's better if we change the world together and we create systems like ASI is trying to do, where the AI revolution is decentralized for the power of the people and for the benefit of humanity rather than hyper-centralized and to run wars. That is almost fundamental, not only for Web3, but also for the rest of the world, and we're trying to achieve that. I'm an ex-finance person as well. I come from investment banking, so I think RWAs are very important as well because they achieve a similar structural component for finance, and I was since 2017 assuming that DeFi and TradFi will converge, and that is the way that we do this. Now there are significant challenges to this, which is again infrastructure, like all levels. In many ways, RWAs are the evolution of security tokens, and I feel comfortable saying that security tokens failed because they were perceived as the solution after a 2018 situation with ICOs, and people were just assuming that security tokens would become the standard for growing ecosystems, and that didn't happen. So I think we have rebranded that, extended the mandate into RWAs, and RWAs will take time to make an impact, and they're deploying capital, right? So I think what MakerDAO is doing is amazing. I think what Ondo is doing is amazing, and is giving a solid footing for everybody to follow. Depin, similar, once again. Whatever is infrastructure and is infrastructure makes sense is what we need. So Depin has actually taught me a lot, right? Now we're also investing in in GPUs, it's public information. We want to create a supercomputer. We want to create the decentralized AI economy of the future. So what made me realize also is that how networks are built. I'm not a tech guy, but I'm learning, right? Like networks are built right now, even if they are distributed, they're super centralized, right? Like, and everything goes through 5 to 10 companies in the world. So Depin is showing that there's a solution to that. It will take us time to be more efficient than them. We may never be more efficient than them, but it's giving me some inputs on the fact that networks don't have to be ubiquitous. Right? You can have localized networks that focus on niche improvements that on a local basis can be better than the bigger system. And I'm excited to see Depin projects realizing this and focusing on scaling industry-specific solutions.
I don't like trends, that's the thing. I think I like to go from first principles and not go from like what's popular. So what I'll answer is like, what I'm excited about is making DeFi useful. Because right now DeFi is completely circular. And you mentioned real-world assets. I think it heavily depends which asset you're talking about and how they're tokenized, so the details matter. We've had a lot of real estate tokenization, for example, on Tezos, and what I think that's great is not necessarily always a fit for DeFi. There are other asset classes, which are real-world asset classes, that you can tokenize, and if you can make them work in DeFi, you can open markets, global markets that today don't exist. That is, I think, something I'd be very excited about.
I have a bias here, but I will explain to you this bias. Crypto is hyper-innovation. Many people are trying things, and some of them are sticking, some of them are not sticking. The reality is many of these trends will maybe survive or maybe just have a break or collapse, right? In my opinion, the only use case which is firmly confirmed in crypto is DeFi. DeFi is here to stay. DeFi has up and down with the market, but DeFi is here to stay. Stable coins are massive. Central banks are copying the stable coins through their CBDCs initiatives. Lending and DeFi rebirth is showing that the market wants, again, some lending via Aave and some other protocols. So there is a DeFi, I will say, market, which is really here to stay and much less experimental. So if people want to start to understand what is internet money, I believe as a new joiner in the DeFi, in the crypto ecosystem, you should consider really spending time in understanding how the tech is making money changing and how the internet money will look like, and DeFi is really where people should be paying attention. This is a confirmed use case. Everything else is for the most part very, very experimental. I'm not saying it's not going to work, but it's very, very early days. I think it's important to have a decentralized enough infrastructure. I think it's very important for everyone to keep educating themselves about DeFi. Many people will label themselves DeFi and eventually not being really DeFi'd and having some issues. We've seen that with centralized exchanges, which obviously are not DeFi, but we see that with some other project where the order book is being run on a server and is not really open. So there is many ways people should be really deep diving and thinking how DeFi is really. I think where you can qualify something as decentralized enough is when you see the openness of the full stack. The open source software, should be open source. The order book should be also visible to all. If you go on Uniswap or if you go on dydX, you can see the order book. You can see what's happening there. In many other instances, you only have settlement of trades on-chain, but everything else which is core is being made in a centralized manner, right? So I think we need to be pragmatic. How much decentralization the user really wants. Many users don't really want to understand how the back-end software are working, but yet it's important to bring a minimum and explain to the people why maybe your payment systems via stablecoins is different, for example, from a traditional fintech system, for example. But decentralization, I think, comes in a very wide spectrum. We should not decentralize the same way Bitcoin as we are decentralizing an app chain, for example. Each of them have a different use case, a different need of decentralization and different need of security. So I think it's important to look at this in a very pragmatic way. And the fact that there is mining and proof of work for Bitcoin for years now, and maybe hundreds of thousands, if not 1 million validators for Ethereum, and maybe 150 validators for some other app chain, I think it comes as a spectrum, and should not be seen as like just one single truth for decentralization.
I was not sure about like how we can combine AI and blockchain. I discovered one project here. Actually, I discovered already on the last token 2049 in Dubai. One guy who told me that they plan to build a network with workers for AI models. So just imagine you need to write really nice technical documentation or description of something, or you need like a lot of information. They actually wanted to offer jobs to someone who can run like AI models and respond to specific jobs. And I told them, use intent-based architecture, where users just declare what they want to achieve, and under the hood, like specific professionals can execute these AI models to generate the proper response, proper data, and they get paid by this. And here we come to how we can use AI together with blockchain. So this is one of good examples, and this is really a good wave and trend here with AI. I personally have fear in terms of AI. It feels like Terminator story here. They became very smart, and some countries start to already produce like robots and test them, you know.
Our technology shines when you want to do more complex things, store more amount of data, have more computation. So I would say that for us, it's most exciting. My Neighbor Alice is extremely exciting. It's the first blockchain game of that sort of scale, an MMO will not replace, which is completely on blockchain. There is no server, completely controlled by users with logic and everything. So that's an exciting use case for us, those kind of advanced games. Yeah, but also, as I mentioned, ChromaWay is great for data. It has a built-in indexing, querying, joins, and all that, but also storage. And now with the ChromaWay extensions, we can have basically native AI. So AI is one shine, and data-intensive application. But it is also general purpose. You can also work together with other blockchains. Say you have your tokens on another blockchain, but you can have the metadata and actual graphic files and a layer on ChromaWay. So we also have zero gas fees, like no gas. And that means you can have easy onboarding of normies. And we have this German football club Stuttgart. They have a marketplace for trading cards for their own fans and engaging with, it's more like fan engagement. You can connect with sponsors, you can select the best players and things like that. And it's all done on ChromaWay, except that these are users that have zero knowledge about crypto. They don't even know that it's crypto that they're using. So it's actually a lot of activity there.
My favorite trend, I mean, so this is not a trend yet, but like I really, really hope that maybe with like an administration change in the US flips its position on securities regulation. We need new regulation for tokens that actually makes sense and is like modern, so that tokens can really represent more and more assets than they can legally today. And I think that will, you know, that's RWAs, right? Like Depin, right? I think that's the most exciting stuff.
Out of all those things, it depends on the person, right? If you're a DGen, you're going to care more about memes. If you're institutional, RWAs and tokenization obviously makes the most sense. But I think social is really a dark horse. I think it's become a bit convoluted with a lot of use cases that don't really apply to the real world applications. But social, I think, is how you're going to onboard the next billion users if it's done right. And it's all about building bridges to Web2 social platforms onto a Web3 ecosystem.
I mean, this cycle is, especially the Bitcoin ecosystem, we're looking at the institutional DeFi opportunity with Bitcoin ETF, with Bitcoin as a very important sound money, right? Ultra sound money and sound assets, and now with yield-bearing possibilities. So the institutional people are coming over together with retail who hold a Bitcoin, who wants to tap into all kinds of use cases, right? Depin AI, like interesting project pitching to us as well on Bitlayer. Some of them wants to build our way that figuring out the Bitcoin version of Depin. But at the end of the day, it's like, what's the product market fit, right? I think this trend is really like unlocking this Bitcoin liquidity, finding new user base, right? Which is like Ethereum gets a lot of DeFi degens, right? On-chain DeFi. Solana and a bunch of other ecosystems had like Memecoins season, which have an interesting new way of distribution. Although Telegram is doing interesting new user base, right? And at some of them, the user base needs to get a liquidity, right? They need to get some interesting way to earn, use cases like earn yield, right? I think that's the part. Telegram users have interesting synergy with Bitcoin stuff as well. I've been talking to a lot of TG bots. Honestly, right now, I don't see one trend specifically just kill everything else. It was not that clear. It's like everything starting at the same time. There's a lot of Web3 AI, all that kind of things happening. I mean, for us, we are very neutral. We don't just focus on one trend, right? We're like vertical agnostic. As long as they can find interesting product market fit with our users, no matter it's wealth, institution, or retail, smart retail, we are here to help them and support them.
I think we need to be very careful about a lot of these trends. The reason I say that is I think, like, talk about real world assets. I think real world assets are great for digital real world assets. But as soon as you talk about tokenization of real estate, well, you need actually, if someone comes and squats on your home, or you're not going to go to the blockchain to come and say, hey, I've got the private key, so get out of my house. You need a centralized authority that has some type of a force to evict them. So I think if we're going to live in a world like that where we have to trust a centralized authority to enforce something, why can't we trust them to actually run a ledger, right? It can be more transparent, sure, but it doesn't need to be, as an example, if I lose my key and I've got a key of property, what happens to that property? Do I lose it? No. We have to have a way of reinstituting it. So there's requirements. So I think for me, the trend still that we need to prove is the ability to use crypto for everyday finance, to save, to spend, etc. It's still a lot of work to do that. So that's where we're spending a lot of our time.
Yeah, it's good to reflect. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm from the AI industry. I've worked in it all my life, and I believe AI is going to be the biggest thing. 2 years ago, it wasn't this popular, and now we've seen, I think, real-world adoption after OpenAI came out with ChatGPT, and then Facebook released their open source model, and since then it's been this crazy, like the utility of artificial intelligence has been ridiculous. Like the increase is insane. Like everyone is using this now internally in business processes. I think it's only the start. I think what ChatGPT did, like this large language model approach, is just the start. We're gonna see way more innovations, different types of models, like doing different things, even more real-world interactions. I think this is like the start of a big innovation wave. So for me, this is the ultimate like application for Web3 as well. Because what's important to me is that we're not going to rely on AWS and Google for running all the AI that we need, right? Like everyone in the world is going to rely in their professional abilities, but even in your personal life, on some AI systems. If Google owns all of that and Amazon owns all of that, that's I think a problem, and it restricts our freedom. And Web3 enables us to run these models on wider networks and not be reliant on a company. So I see the real utility there, and I think this is the best utility for Web3. But there's more use cases for sure. Like DeFi is very valid. I think the metaverse also has a lot of. The hype has been maybe bigger than the developments were going, but it's also a beautiful technology. So AI, Depin, I think are the best utility right now for Web3, the most like usable application. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure it's a trend as such, but I'm definitely a Depin fan, and I think that our version of Depin is that when a football fan engages with a club and they go to a stadium, they should be able to be rewarded for every interaction in that stadium. So in the physical environment, after a football match, during a football match, they can go to a concession, they can spend money on popcorn, on Subway, on other products in and around the stadium, and that can be tracked and they can be rewarded for every dollar that they've given to a football club.